What if the opening chapter of the Bible wasn't, originally written to be read as just this beautiful, serene poem?
Right.
What if instead it was this highly sophisticated, deliberate piece of, well, resistance literature, like something meant to completely dismantle the greatest superpower of the ancient world?
It completely changes the paradigm, doesn't it? I mean, you stop reading Genesis merely as some ancient attempt at science.
Yeah, exactly.
And you start reading it as a profound theological rebellion.
Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. We are so thrilled you're joining us today because our mission is, well, it's nothing short of time travel.
It really is.
We are journeying back over 4,000 years. We're going to explore the oldest known religious writings in human history, the pyramid texts of ancient Egypt.
But we aren't just looking at them as, dusty relics in a museum.
Right, no. We are going to examine how these intricate and honestly often terrifying texts formed the cultural and theological backdrop that the biblical authors deliberately pushed back against.
Surgically pushed back against, I would say.
Yes, surgically. And ultimately, we're going to explore how understanding this ancient, anxiety-ridden theology profoundly deepens our appreciation for the Christian gospel.
And our devotion to Christ. It is a remarkable journey.
It is. And to guide us, we're relying on a truly fascinating stack of sources for you today.
We've got detailed scholarly notes analyzing the pyramid texts, specifically those discovered in the pyramid of Pharaoh Unas.
Unas, right. And we also have extensive excerpts from James P. Allen's authoritative translations of the original hieroglyphs.
Plus, to tie all the historical data to its theological implications, we're using a deeply insightful essay. It's titled, Reading the Pyramid Texts, Ancient Egypt and the Biblical Vision.
I'm so ready to get into this. To help us navigate both this complex ancient Egyptian cosmology and its profound biblical contrasts, I'm joined, as always, by our resident expert.
Thanks. I'm excited to dive in.
Let's set the historical stage first. Take us back. Where exactly are we in history, and whose tomb are we breaking into?
Okay, so we are in the late 5th dynasty of the Old Kingdom.
So roughly what year?
The year is roughly 2375 BCE.
Wow, okay. Over 4,000 years ago.
Right, and we are standing on the desert plateau of Saqqara.
Saqqara. That was like the vast necropolis for the ancient Egyptian capital, Memphis, right?
Exactly. And the pharaoh we are focusing on is Unas. Now, historically speaking, Unas's pyramid is actually the smallest of the Old Kingdom royal pyramids.
Really? The smallest?
Yeah, if you look at it from the outside today, I mean, it largely resembles just a ruined mound of rubble.
Oh, wow. So not the grand image we usually have.
No, not at all. But beneath that rubble, it is utterly revolutionary.
How so?
It is the very first pyramid in Egyptian history to have these texts carved directly into the walls.
The burial chambers, right?
Yes, the subterranean burial chambers, humanity's earliest extensive corpus of religious writings, right there on the limestone.
Which is a huge shift, right? Because if you go back a couple of hundred years to, say, the Great Pyramid of Khufu.
And the interior walls are completely bare.
Exactly. There's this overwhelming silence to those earlier monuments.
Yeah, they're entirely unadorned inside.
But suddenly with Unas, every square inch of the burial chamber is covered.
Meticulously carved columns of hieroglyphs.
And they were filled in with blue pigment, weren't they, to represent the eternal sky?
They were. So the obvious question is, why the sudden change?
Right. What happened? That's the million-dollar question in Egyptology.
The prevailing theory is that the 5th dynasty was experiencing a slow crisis of centralization.
Meaning the pharaoh was losing his grip.
Basically, yes. The absolute, unquestioned authority that characterized the era of the Great Pyramids was beginning to fracture.
So provincial governors were gaining power, that sort of thing.
Exactly. And on top of that, the climate was shifting.
Oh, so like lower Nile floods.
Right, which leads to economic strain, food shortages, all of that.
So when physical, political, and economic power begins to wane, how does the state respond?
It doubles down on theological and magical power.
Ah, I see.
Carving these texts wasn't a sign of absolute confidence. It was actually a symptom of a growing cosmic anxiety.
They needed to guarantee the king's transition to the afterlife.
Because they believed the stability of the entire universe depended on it.
And we should clarify for a listener, right? When we say texts, we aren't talking about a book.
No, not at all.
This isn't a narrative story with a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Exactly. They are performative ritual anthologies.
Performative meaning they do something.
Right. The walls of Unas's tomb contain roughly 200 distinct spells, or, well, utterances, as scholars prefer to call them.
200. Wow.
And in later pyramids, this corpus expanded to over 700 utterances.
That's a lot of spells. What kind of spells are we talking about?
They consist of hymns, offering formulas, ascension liturgies, and apotropaic charms.
Bapatupaic.
Yeah, which are essentially magical wards against danger.
Like spiritual security systems.
Exactly. And the crucial thing to understand about the Egyptian mindset is that writing wasn't just descriptive.
It was generative.
Yes. Carving these spells into the stone didn't just record the magic. It made the magic permanent and active.
The hieroglyphs themselves were viewed as living things.
They were.
Which is why, in some of these texts, the hieroglyphs of certain dangerous animals, like snakes or scorpions...
They're deliberately carved with a knife through their necks.
Right. To magically neutralize them so they don't harm the dead king in the afterlife.
Precisely. The writing is a vehicle of eternal power.
It's so literal.
It is. And the architecture itself is part of that magical machinery.
The sources actually highlight how the physical layout of the subterranean chambers maps the spiritual journey, right?
Yes, the dead king is expected to take this very specific path.
Walk us through that map. If we are standing inside the pyramid, what does the architecture tell us about their theology?
It's a brilliant fusion of spatial design and belief. So you have to picture the subterranean layout.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
The innermost room is the burial chamber, and it's lying directly beneath the apex of the pyramid.
The very center.
Right. This dark, enclosed space represents the duat, the underworld. Yes. Here, the mummy of Unas rests in a massive black basalt sarcophagus in the western end of the room.
And in this state, the deceased king is identified with Osiris, right?
Exactly. The archetypal god of the dead who was murdered and resurrected.
So the journey begins in absolute darkness in the realm of the dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the utterances carved in the walls surrounding the sarcophagus reflect this.
They're fiercely protective.
Very. They focus on preventing the physical decomposition of the corpse, warding off scavengers.
And provisioning the king with an eternal supply of magical food and drink, I assume.
Right. From there, the soul must move east, passing through a short, low corridor into the antechamber.
Okay, and this room represents the akhet, the horizon.
The horizon, exactly.
And the horizon being that liminal space. It's not the underworld, but it's not quite the sky yet. It's the place of transition.
Perfectly stated. The horizon is where the sun is reborn every morning.
So the spells in the antechamber shift their focus.
They do. They are about the king's ritual transformation, his purification.
Getting him ready to leave the earthly realm behind.
Yes. And finally, from the antechamber, a corridor leads north toward the exit of the pyramid.
And that passage represents the ascent.
The king's triumphant ascent to the northern sky, where he will join the imperishable stars.
The circumpolar stars that never set?
Exactly. And merge with the sun god, in his eternal cosmic cycle.
So the movement from chamber to chamber literally enacts the progression from a fragile corpse to a glorified cosmic ruler.
That's the exact architectural theology.
It's an incredibly elaborate system, but to really grasp why this journey was so perilous, we have to look at how the Egyptians understood human identity.
Because it's not simple.
Right. According to our sources, they didn't just believe in a simple separation of body and soul.
Not at all. The human self was a multiplicity of distinct, fragile parts.
The Egyptian anthropology is notoriously complex, isn't it?
Very much so. They viewed the self as a composite of several different entities, and death was the catastrophic shattering of that composite.
Shattering, that's a great word for it.
You have the physical body, the ka,
which had to be meticulously mummified.
because it served as the anchor for the spiritual components.
Right. But beyond the body, you have the ka.
Yes, the ka.
How would you define the ka for someone trying to wrap their head around it?
The best way to understand the ka is as the vital life force.
The vital life force. Okay.
It is the spark of animation that differentiates a living person from a corpse.
But the ka requires continuous sustenance.
Right.
Yes.
Just as a living body needs food, the ka needs the spiritual essence of food to survive in the afterlife.
Which is the entire reason the Egyptians had massive ongoing offering cults.
Where priests would daily present real bread, beer, and meat to the false doors of tombs.
And the ka absorbs the life force of those offerings.
Exactly.
Okay, so you have the body and you have the life force, but there's also the ba.
Yes, the ba.
How is that different?
The ba is closer to what we might call the personality or the individual consciousness.
Oh, interesting. And it's highly mobile, right?
Very mobile. In Egyptian art, The Ba is almost always depicted as a bird with a human head.
A bird with a human head, that's quite an image.
It has the ability to leave the tomb during the day, travel out into the world, and bask in the sunlight.
But it has to come back.
It must return to the mummy every night to rest.
And we haven't even mentioned the name, the Ren, which held the very essence of your identity.
Or the shadow, which was also considered a distinct part of the self.
It really is like a spiritual jigsaw puzzle that gets violently scattered the moment you die.
And that scattering is the root of their terror.
Terror, because if they don't put it back together.
The ultimate goal of the pyramid texts, the entire purpose of this massive magical endeavor, is to provide the exact instructions needed to reunite those pieces.
So if the king can successfully merge his Ba back together with his Ka.
He undergoes a profound transformation. He becomes an akh.
An akh, what does that signify?
The word akh translates roughly to effective spirit or luminous one.
Luminous one.
It is the ultimate glorified state. An akh is an immortal, divine being capable of living among the gods.
Possessing agency and power in the cosmos.
But here is the terrifying catch.
There's always a catch.
This transformation is not guaranteed.
If the spells fail.
If the tomb is destroyed, or if the offerings stop.
The fragments of the soul dissipate.
You suffer the second death.
Wow. The second death.
You cease to exist entirely. You become just the dead, trapped in eternal darkness.
Which brings us to a massive, uncomfortable detail that the theological essay really hammers home.
A very important point.
This elaborate salvation, this transformation into a luminous akh, was exclusively royal.
Exclusively. During the Old Kingdom, the common people had absolutely no such scope.
None at all.
The texts make it explicitly clear. Only the pharaoh possessed the divine right and the necessary resources to achieve immortality.
The elaborate rituals inscribed on these walls served one singular purpose.
To transform the deceased king into a god.
The texts actually boast that Unas doesn't just join the gods, he judges them.
He commands the living and the dead.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second because I want to use an analogy here.
Go for it.
This afterlife sounds less like a peaceful rest and more like an insanely exclusive VIP club.
That's a very good way to put it.
Like, you have to know the exact magical cheat codes or passwords just to survive the bouncers.
The bouncers being the apotropaic spells against chaos serpents, of course.
Exactly. So my question is, how stressful was this theology if your entire eternity depended on having the right spells carved in your tomb?
Incredibly stressful. The stakes couldn't be higher.
Wait, let me stop you there and ask a question that I think a lot of you listening might be wondering about.
Okay.
You're describing a theology built on deep existential panic, a spiritual jigsaw puzzle, where if one piece is missing, you face eternal annihilation.
Right.
But when we look at Egyptian art, when we look at the pyramids themselves, they project the exact opposite.
They do, yes.
They are perfect geometric mountains. The statues of the pharaohs are calm, symmetrical, unmoving. Yeah, Serene. If they were so terrified, why does their entire civilization look like the epitome of serene stability?
That is a brilliant observation, and the answer lies in understanding what Egyptian art and architecture actually are.
Okay, what are they?
They are not expressions of how the world is.
Oh, I see.
They're magical assertions of how the world must be.
Wow. Okay.
The pyramid isn't a reflection of peace. It is a three-dimensional magical shield against chaos.
A magical shield.
Yes. The serene, unsmiling statues of the pharaohs aren't capturing their earthly moods.
They aren't just portraits.
No. They are idealized, indestructible vessels designed to house the Ka if the mummy is destroyed.
The absolute rigidity of their monuments is a direct reaction to the absolute fragility of their cosmos.
They built mountains of stone precisely because they believed the universe was constantly on the verge of collapsing.
That makes so much sense. The monument is the armor.
Yes, the armor.
And the thickness of the armor tells you exactly how terrified they were of what was outside of it.
Exactly.
Which leads us perfectly into the second major theme of our sources, the Egyptian cosmology.
Let's look at the universe outside that armor.
How did they believe everything began?
To understand their anxiety, you really have to understand their origins.
Yeah.
The Egyptian creation myth doesn't start with a sovereign, transcendent God standing outside of time and space, calmly willing the universe into existence.
Right, not like the Genesis account.
It starts with a concept called none.
None, the primordial waters.
Yes, none is the eternal, unordered, dark, watery abyss. It is infinite in all directions.
Just endless, dark water.
Now, it's important to grasp that the Egyptians didn't necessarily view none as evil. in a moral sense.
But they viewed it as the antithesis of life, structure, and order.
It is unordered, chaotic potential.
And from within this infinite dark ocean, creation somehow happens.
From within none, the creator god Adam self-generates.
He just pops into existence.
He emerges out of the waters, often depicted mythologically as the primeval mound of earth rising from the floodwaters of the Nile after the inundation.
Like a mud island appearing when the river goes down.
Exactly. But what is critical here is the mechanism of creation.
How does Adam create the rest of the cosmos?
Our sources emphasize that it is incredibly physical. It's visceral.
Yeah, Adam doesn't speak the universe into existence from a distance.
No. He creates the first divine pair of gods, Shu, the god of air, and Tefnut, the goddess of moisture, through bodily emanation.
Bodily emanation. Depending on the specific text, he produces them by sneezing, by spitting them out of his mouth, or through his own seed.
Right.
Why do you think the myth relies on such specific, almost messy biological functions? Spitting, seed. Why not just have him mold them out of clay or something?
Because in their worldview, the creator is entirely immanent.
Meaning?
He is embedded within the material process itself. The emergence of moisture and air requires a physical, biological transfer of essence from the creator's own body.
So the divine isn't exempt from biological reality.
The divine is bound by it. From Shu and Tefnut come the next generation of gods, Geb, the earth god, and Nut, the sky goddess.
And here is where the mechanical tension of the universe really begins.
The separation of heaven and earth.
Yes. According to the myth, Geb and Nut were originally locked in a tight embrace, leaving no room for life to exist between them.
So Shu, the god of air, must physically step between them and lift Nut up with his own hands, separating the sky from the earth.
Which means the sky is heavy.
Very heavy. Shu is depicted as perpetually straining, his arms raised, holding the physical weight of the sky goddess above the earth.
If his strength fails, if he lowers his arms,
the sky will literally crash back down into the earth.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because to me, this is like a terrifying act of spinning plates.
Yes, spinning plates.
It's like a weightlifter who is forced to hold a barbell above his head for eternity. If he blinks, if he cramps up, it's over. That is the physics of their universe.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. And this leads us to the fundamental operating principle of the Egyptian cosmos.
Which is?
The universe is structured around a perpetual, exhausting tension between two opposing forces.
On one side, you have Ma'at.
Ma'at represents cosmic order, justice, truth, and the structural integrity of creation.
And on the other side, you have Isfet.
Isfet is chaos, entropy, violence, and the ever-present threat of the primordial waters returning to drown the world.
So creation wasn't a one-time completed event. It wasn't finished.
No, it is an ongoing, fragile state of emergency.
The universe is a leaking boat.
And someone has to constantly bail the water out or it sinks.
And the person holding the bucket is the pharaoh.
The Egyptian king is the indispensable cosmic mediator.
His daily rituals in the temples on Earth and his successful transformation into a glorified Akh in the afterlife are the literal mechanisms that keep Ma'at intact.
If the rituals stop, if the magical spells in the pyramid fail, the sky could fall.
The atmosphere would collapse.
The eternal waters of none would rush back in, and all of creation would regress into dark, watery nothingness.
So when Unas is going through this journey in the afterlife, he isn't just trying to save his own skin.
He is carrying the survival of the entire universe on his back.
And the lengths the king will go to in order to secure that survival. Well, that leads us to what is easily the most shocking and visceral part of the sources we reviewed.
Utterances 273 and 274 of the pyramid texts.
The Cannibal Hymn.
It is a truly stunning piece of ancient literature. It's found only in the pyramids of Unas and his immediate successor, Teti.
And it drops the facade of serene Egyptian stability entirely.
Completely.
Walk us through the Cannibal Hymn, because when I first read this in the notes, it reads like a cosmic horror movie.
It really does.
What is Unas doing as he ascends to the sky?
The hymn portrays the deceased King Unas ascending to the heavens not as a peaceful ruler, but as a terrifying, omnipotent, and ravenous force.
He doesn't just humbly join the assembly of the gods.
He hunts them.
He hunts them.
The text specifically describes Unas as a god who lives on his fathers and feeds on his mothers.
He literally hunts down the older deities, slaughters them, cooks their bodies in glowing cauldrons, and consumes them. Let me actually read a line from Alan's translation here, because you listeners need to hear the actual tone of this.
Please do.
It says, Unas is the bull of the sky, who conquers at will, who lives on the being of every god, who eats their entrails. Unas has eaten the magical knowledge of every god.
He is eating them to absorb their magic.
Exactly. Assimilation through consumption.
By eating the gods, he assimilates their divine power, their hika, which is the Egyptian word for magic, and their vital spirit into his own belly.
The hymn goes into gruesome detail, saying he eats the big gods for his morning meal, the middle-sized gods for his evening meal, and the little gods for his nighttime snacks.
It's just nonstop devouring.
I mean, this reveals a universe driven entirely by anxiety, manipulation, and domination, doesn't it?
It does. Unas achieves eternal supremacy by devouring any potential rival.
Consolidating all the magic in the universe into himself.
The hymn triumphantly concludes that because he has consumed the gods, Unas is judges, but he cannot be judged. He answers to no one.
I want to sit with the psychological implications of this for a moment, because it's the ultimate survival of the fittest played out on a cosmic, magical scale.
Truly.
You have a universe where the ultimate savior figure, the god king who keeps the sky from falling, achieves his salvation by violently cannibalizing the power of others.
And all the while, the common person, the farmer on the banks of the Nile, is just watching helplessly from the dirt.
Knowing their only value is to serve as fuel for this terrifying system.
That is the exact theological reality of the Egyptian worldview. It is a system built on elitism and cosmic panic.
Power flows exclusively downward from the elite,
Who maintain their position through secret knowledge, mechanical magic, and sheer force.
In this universe, there is no universal grace.
There is no unconditional love.
And there is certainly no rest. It is a perpetual, exhausting struggle against the dark.
Which makes the pivot in our sources so incredibly powerful.
Let's transition to the theological essay's main argument regarding the biblical texts.
Because for a long time, historically, when skeptics look at the Hebrew Bible, specifically the creation account in Genesis, they point out that it shares a lot of vocabulary and imagery with these ancient Near Eastern myths.
You have primordial waters, you have the separation of heaven and earth, you have humans formed from the dust.
And the argument has often been, see, the Israelites just copied the Egyptians and the Babylonians. It's all the same myth.
But the essay argues, quite convincingly, the exact opposite.
Yes, the Hebrew authors are utilizing the familiar ancient imagery.
They are using the cosmic grammar of the ancient Near East because that was the language of their world.
But they don't use it to copy the empires. They use it to completely subvert and reject the imperial worldview.
It is a deliberate, highly sophisticated theological polemic.
We called it a diss track earlier, and I think that captures the spirit of it perfectly.
Right. It's an ancient, profound act of literary resistance.
So let's look at how Genesis actually executes this critique, starting right at the beginning.
Genesis chapter 1. How does the Bible handle the primordial waters?
Let's compare the Egyptian Nun, the eternal watery abyss that birthed the Creator, with Genesis 1:2.
The biblical text says, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep."
The Hebrew word for the deep there is tehom.
Tehom. So both cultures start with a dark, cosmic ocean. But how are they different?
The radical difference lies in agency and origin.
Okay, break that down.
In the Egyptian text, the chaos waters are co-eternal with the Creator God. In fact, they birth him. The waters possess a latent, dangerous power.
But the biblical God does not emerge from the chaos.
He strictly pre-exists it. In Genesis, the waters of Tehom have absolutely no mythic agency.
They're kind of sleeping monster.
They aren't a rival deity. They are simply passive matter, entirely subject to the sovereign, brooding presence of the Spirit of God.
They offer absolutely zero resistance.
So right out of the gate, the biblical author is looking at the empires around them and saying, that terrifying infinite chaos ocean that keeps your pharaohs awake at night.
It has no power.
Our God hovers over it.
Exactly. It strips chaos of its divinity.
And then we must look at the mode of creation.
We just discussed how Adam creates through physical bodily emanation. Spitting, sneezing, sweating.
It's biologically frail.
Contrast that with how the God of Genesis creates.
And God said, let there be light, and there was light.
God creates through a sovereign, transcendent word.
There is no physical strain.
There is no loss of divine essence.
This completely removes the Creator from the messy biological frailty of the material process.
It establishes God's absolute transcendence. He is not embedded within the universe, fighting for space. He is its ultimate author.
And what about the sky? We talked about poor Shu, the Egyptian air god, sweating for eternity to hold up the sky goddess Nut so she doesn't crash down and destroy the earth.
How does Genesis handle the separation of heaven and earth? Genesis 1 describes God separating the waters above from the waters below by creating the firmament, the sky.
But notice the mechanics. God does it once, by decree, and then he steps back and calls it good.
It is finished.
There is no divine being straining to hold the sky up.
The biblical cosmos is declared intrinsically stable and secure.
It is sustained by God's faithful, ongoing word, not by human magical rituals or exhausted deities.
And because the creation is stable, because the sky isn't going to fall, we arrive at what might be the most revolutionary countercultural concept in the ancient world.
The Sabbath.
The Sabbath. I mean, the Sabbath is the ultimate theological mic drop against the Egyptian worldview.
What's fascinating here is that in Egyptian theology, a Sabbath rest would be utterly unthinkable.
It would be apocalyptic.
If the creator god or the pharaoh who represents him took a day off to rest, it would signal an immediate cosmic collapse.
Rest meant the ritual stopped, the magic faded, and Isfet chaos would flood back in to drown the world.
Let's explore the psychological weight of this for the original audience of Genesis.
Because the Israelites were slaves in Egypt. Their entire existence was defined by building monuments to a system that told them the universe was perpetually exhausted.
And therefore, they must be perpetually exhausted to serve the gods.
To suddenly hear a creation story where God finishes his work, looks at it, declares it very good, and then simply, well, rests.
It is a profound liberation. He breathes. He enjoys his creation.
And more importantly, he invites humanity into that rest. He commands them to rest.
The biblical narrative tells the formerly enslaved Israelites the plates are not going to fall. You don't have to keep spinning them.
You are safe.
That stability completely changes the trajectory of human existence.
It does. Because the universe is stable, it underwrites the possibility of linear history.
It allows for a covenant relationship where God and humanity can move toward a promised future.
This is entirely foreign to the Egyptian cyclical thinking, which was just about surviving another day, repeating the same rituals, fighting off the same chaos serpents every single night.
I love this so much. It's a total paradigm shift.
And we have to talk about how this shift fundamentally changes the way humans are viewed, the anthropology.
Right, because we spent a lot of time establishing how the pyramid text reserved the image of a god, the divine status, and the authority to rule the cosmos exclusively for the pharaoh.
The elites get eternity. Everyone else is just fuel for the machine.
But Genesis 1 declares something astonishing.
It says, so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them.
Every single human being, regardless of class, status, wealth, or power, bears the divine image.
God delegates dominion not just to a single God king, but to humanity as a whole.
It is the ultimate democratization of dignity.
Think about how subversive that is. The biblical text is looking directly at the Egyptian pyramid structure of society and flattening it.
It tells the common person, you are not an afterthought in a pharaoh's universe.
You are not cannon fodder for a cannibal king. You are the pinnacle of a stable creation made in the very image of the creator.
It relocates authority. In Egypt, authority was based on a claim of divine ontology, meaning the king actually is a god.
In Genesis, authority is based on a vocation. Humans serve as God's representatives.
We are royal stewards, not divine consumers.
And this fundamentally changes how humans are meant to relate to the divine realm, which brings us to the core mechanical difference between these two worldviews.
Magic versus covenant.
Yes, let's look at how they actually practice their religion, because the way a culture worships tells you everything about who they think God is.
In the Egyptian system, as we see clearly in the pyramid text, religion operates through Heka, through magic and esoteric ritual knowledge.
The texts are highly transactional. They are mechanical.
If you know a god's hidden secret name, or if you have the exact right incantation carved on your wall, you can literally force the gods to do your bidding.
You bind them to your will.
Yes. Religion in this context is a mechanical technique.
It's a technology used to manipulate the divine to get what you want, which for the pharaoh is eternal life, food, and cosmic power.
It's entirely about human effort and secret knowledge ascending upward, forcing the heavens to open and yield their resources.
I want to make sure I'm really grasping the mechanics of Heka. Let me try out an analogy, and you tell me if this tracks with the historical reality.
Okay, what's the analogy?
So, what does this all mean? It sounds like the Egyptian system treats the divine realm like a giant cosmic vending machine.
Vending machine. Elaborate on that.
Well, think about how a vending machine works. It doesn't have a will of its own. It doesn't decide whether or not you deserve a soda.
Right.
It is entirely bound by its own internal mechanics. If I know the right sequence, if I put in the exact right coin, which in this case is the magical spell or the hidden name, and I punch the correct button, the machine has to drop the soda.
It is forced to yield the desired outcome.
The power isn't in the machine. The power is in the person who holds the coin and knows the code.
That is actually a remarkably accurate analogy for the theology of Heike. The gods and the universe itself are bound by the mechanics of the magic.
If the spell is spoken correctly, the result is guaranteed, regardless of the moral character of the person casting it.
But the biblical counter-narrative completely shatters the vending machine.
Entirely. The biblical worldview is rooted in faith, ethics, and covenant.
In the Bible, God speaks first. He initiates the relationship.
You cannot manipulate him with spells, and you certainly cannot bind him with a secret name.
So to continue the analogy, the vending machine is replaced by a sovereign parent.
Right. You can't put a coin in a parent and force them to do what you want. You can't perform a magic trick to make them love you.
But you can trust them. You can wrestle with them.
You can enter into a loving, sometimes complicated relationship with them. So how does this shift the burden of salvation from human effort to divine grace?
Well, because God cannot be manipulated mechanically, the biblical prophets absolutely mock the vending machine mentality of their neighbors.
They constantly critique the idea that religion is just about performing the right ritual to get a payout.
Look at the prophet Micah, chapter 6. The people are essentially asking for the right coin for the vending machine.
They say, "Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000s of rivers of oil?"
They're asking, what is the magical formula? What is the price to buy God's favor?
And Micah's response obliterates that framework. He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, and to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God.
It's about ethics. It's about the posture of the heart, not the perfection of a magical technique.
The sources provide some brilliant examples of how understanding the intricacies of the pyramid texts illuminates specific targeted mockery in the Bible.
For example, Psalm 115 mocks pagan idols.
The psalmist says, "They have mouths, but do not speak, eyes, but do not see. They have ears, but do not hear."
Now, to a modern reader, that just sounds like a generic insult. Obviously, a statue can't talk.
Right, it seems self-evident.
But the author of our essay points out that this is a direct surgical hit at a very specific Egyptian ritual called the opening of the mouth ceremony.
Explain the physics of that ceremony. What did the Egyptians believe they were doing?
In the Egyptian funerary cult, priests would perform a complex ritual over a statue of a god, or the mummy of the pharaoh.
The climax of the ritual involved the priest taking a special adze, a specific type of cutting tool, and physically touching the mouth, eyes, and ears of the statue while reciting incantations.
What was the ad supposed to do?
They believed the magical application of the adze cut the spiritual senses open. It magically animated the statue.
Once the mouth was opened, the spirit of the god or the dead king could inhabit the statue, allowing it to literally speak and eat the spiritual essence of the offerings placed before it.
This spell is all over the pyramid texts.
So when the psalmist says, "They have mouths but do not speak," he isn't just making a casual observation.
He is looking directly at the pinnacle of Egyptian magical technology, the opening of the mouth ritual, and declaring it an absolute fraud.
He is saying, I don't care what spells you chanted or what ads you used. The magic doesn't work. They are pieces of wood and stone. You are deluding yourselves.
That is incredible context. They knew exactly what the Egyptians believed they were accomplishing, and they are calling it out as empty theater.
There's another great example in Isaiah 31.3. The prophet explicitly states, "The Egyptians are man and not God, and their horses are flesh and not spirit."
Again, this is a direct theological rejection of the fluid boundary between human and divine. That is the entire premise of the pyramid texts.
Eunice claimed he could transform from a man into a god who judges the cosmos. Isaiah draws a hard, unbreakable ontological line between the creator and the creature.
Men are men, God is God.
Which shifts the entire burden of salvation. In the Egyptian system, the burden is entirely on you, or more accurately on your wealthy priest, to perform the magic perfectly.
To provide the offerings daily so you can frantically climb up to the gods and avoid annihilation.
But in the biblical covenant, God is the one who initiates. God is the one who descends to humanity.
Which leads us directly to the climax of the contrast and the ultimate theological takeaway from the essay we are exploring.
If we trace these two distinct trajectories, the God-King of the Pyramid texts and the God-King of the New Testament, we see a total inversion of how power, salvation, and eternity are understood.
Let's trace that out, because the contrast with Jesus Christ is breathtaking.
The Egyptian texts present a savior king, Unas, who achieves his immortality and sustains the cosmos through sheer domination.
He is the ultimate elitist. He secures his life by literally consuming the life, the magic, and the bodies of others.
He climbs to the top of the cosmic food chain and ensures that while he judges everyone, no one can judge him.
Now contrast that image with the revelation of Jesus Christ in the Gospels.
Christ achieves his kingship and saves the cosmos, not through violent domination, but through a radically self-giving death.
He doesn't conquer by breaking others. He conquers by allowing himself to be broken.
The gospel presents a God who enters human history, not in imperial splendor, but in weakness, in poverty, completely rejecting the coercive power of the empires.
Think about the Last Supper in contrast to the cannibal hymn. The pharaoh achieves eternal life by hunting the gods, eating their entrails, and hoarding their magic.
But Jesus, on the night he is betrayed, takes bread, breaks it, and says, "Take, eat. This is my body given for you."
He doesn't consume his subjects to gain life. He freely feeds his people with his own life so that they might live.
It is the exact, deliberate opposite.
That is a profound theological resonance. The essay summarizes this core reflection beautifully, and it really is the heart of the matter.
Egyptian religion, as crystallized in the pyramid text, is about humans, specifically the elite, using magic, vast wealth, and monumental effort to desperately climb up to the divine.
It is the ultimate picture of magic ascending.
Biblical faith, culminating in the incarnation and cross of Christ, is about God, in his sheer mercy and love, descending to humanity. It is grace descending.
Salvation is offered freely to all. It's democratized.
It's not a commodity sold to the ultra-rich who can afford to build a limestone pyramid and hire 100 priests to chant spells for eternity.
This contrast also answers a crucial question regarding the ultimate fate of the universe and the nature of the afterlife.
The essay highlights the massive difference between the historical resurrection of Christ and the mythical resurrection of the pharaohs.
Unpack that for us. What is the difference between mythical cyclical resurrection and historical resurrection?
In the Egyptian afterlife, resurrection is cyclical. It's a repetitive loop of ritualistic maintenance designed to stave off entropy.
Think about their sun god, Re. He doesn't just conquer the darkness once.
He dies every night, descends into the underworld, fights a desperate, exhausting battle against the chaos serpent Apophis, and is reborn every morning.
And the Dead King does the same. It's a perpetual mythic loop just to keep the plate spinning for one more day.
The victory is never final.
The war never ends.
But the New Testament view of resurrection is entirely different.
The resurrection of Jesus is not a mythic cycle. It is a historical, embodied, once-for-all event.
When Christ rises from the dead, he defeats death permanently. He doesn't just manage the chaos. He destroys it.
It is finished.
Exactly. And this goes all the way back to how Genesis fundamentally views death.
In Egyptian cosmology, death and chaos are simply part of the fabric of the universe. They are a tragic cosmic necessity.
You can't have a universe without the dark waters.
But in Genesis, death is not original to creation.
Death is a moral consequence of human rebellion. It is an unnatural intruder into a good world.
Therefore, biblical redemption isn't about learning magical spells to magically reanimate a corpse or fighting off serpents in the underworld every night.
Redemption is about the restoration of our fractured relationship with the Creator, leading to the total final eradication of death itself.
This is where this deep dive gets incredibly personal for you listening. Reflecting on this ancient history doesn't just give us fun facts about pyramids, it infinitely deepens our love and devotion to Christ.
Because if we were living in the Egyptian system, unless you happen to be the pharaoh or a highly initiated priest, we would be hopelessly lost.
We would be entirely in the dark, viewed as disposable fuel for the elite.
But Christ tears down that hierarchy. He democratizes eternity.
When you see the sheer, exhausting anxiety of the ancient world's premier religion, this desperate, magical, blood-soaked scrambling just to keep the sky from falling down on their heads, doesn't it make the words of Jesus sound infinitely more profound?
When Jesus looks at the crowds and says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest."
Rest. It is the one thing the pharaohs, despite all their wealth, their armies, and their monuments, could never truly achieve.
A Sabbath for the soul. It is beautiful.
The author of the essay makes a striking point in their conclusion. They note that immersing themselves in these ancient pagan texts didn't weaken their Christian faith. It fortified it.
Because seeing the darkness of the Egyptian system highlights the radical revolutionary nature of biblical claims in their original historical context.
The Exodus of Israel isn't just a tribal legend about escaping bad working conditions. It's a massive theological declaration of liberation from a cosmic system where only God-kings mattered.
Jesus' proclamation of the kingdom of God operates on completely different principles than the empires of the world.
Power is found in weakness, life is found in death, and eternity is a gift of grace, not a prize of magic.
We have covered an incredible amount of ground today.
We really have. We started deep in the dark, spell-covered limestone walls of Pharaoh Unis's tomb. We explored the fragile, anxiety-ridden Egyptian cosmos, a universe perpetually on the brink of collapse, held together only by mechanical magic and the ruthless, cannibalistic domination of a god-king.
We saw how Genesis operates as a brilliant, surgical critique of that entire worldview, offering instead a stable creation, a sovereign God who creates effortlessly by a word, and a humanity universally crowned with the dignity of the divine image.
And we traced that subversive thread all the way to the breathtaking grace of Christ, who reverses the pyramid of power entirely, conquering the cosmos through self-giving love rather than violent consumption.
It truly is a remarkable journey, from the exhaustion of human effort to the profound peace of divine grace.
But the essay we've been using leaves us with a critical warning, a final thought that we really need to consider before we close.
The author notes that history shows us something tragic. Whenever the Christian church has functioned most like Egyptian religion, it fundamentally betrays its own founding vision.
What does that look like in practice? How does the church act like Egypt?
It looks like the church seeking worldly domination, blessing imperial power, and relying on coercion rather than love.
It looks like treating salvation as a ritual technique, a transactional magic controlled by clerical elites who hoard access to God.
It looks like marginalizing the poor, the weak, and the outcast, while building massive monuments to the powerful.
The pyramid texts stand as a stark historical cautionary tale of exactly what religion looks like when it is constructed entirely around human power, privilege, and the desperate fear of losing control.
So, as you go about your week, we want to leave you with this provocative thought. Look closely at your own life. Ask yourself, are there areas in your own spiritual walk where you are accidentally slipping back into Egyptian theology?
Are you treating your faith, your prayers, or your good deeds like mechanical magic spells? Are you treating God like a cosmic vending machine, frantically trying to insert the right coins to manipulate him into giving you what you want, instead of simply trusting a loving Father?
Are you exhausted from trying to keep all the plates spinning in your life, building a monument out of your own panic just to prove your worth?
Remember the profound contrast. The work is finished. The creation is stable.
You don't have to hold up the sky.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the sources. Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.